What's up, everybody? I am back with another Smash JT video. We'll be reacting to what he is titling This Explains Everything. This will be referencing female gamers. So I want to look more into this video, see what he has to say. I'm very curious to hear from JT. But do me a huge favor, follow Smash JT on his platform. I'd like to give credit to the original content creator. Also follow me on my channels, YouTube and Twitch, Talkative Carl, as I watch as I stream games, react to videos, and review content. So we'll go right into it and hear his thoughts on the gaming industry.
You guys remember like 6 months ago we were talking about these fake stats that were being made up, talking about how women are basically comprising 50% of the gaming population because they play Bejeweled on their phone once a month. So they're gamers too. Well, that story seems to be
I remember stats where they try to count girls who are almost always the ones on their phone most of the day, and they have things like these little phone app games, and like, oh yeah, they're gamers too. No, I think that is like a scapegoat to try to count them in. I have wait, what's that freaking thing called? Candy Crush. Right. I have Candy Crush on my phone too. Doesn't count as like a game. It is a game, but not in a traditional sense. It's just like, it's a far cry from Super Mario or Smash Brothers or Final Fantasy. Things have like a linear story. Things that like you can devote like some serious hours of your time into. This is just something like I don't know. It's just different, okay? But you can't count it, in my opinion.
not dead. Video Games Chronicle, female players are an overlooked opportunity for growth in the games industry. A research firm's
It'd be the functional equivalent of, oh, I fixed some pork and beans. Now I can call myself a chef. That'll be the good functional equivalent of what I'm describing. You would never call somebody who can just make pork and beans a chef. Sure, technically you cooked, but no one would ever call that person a chef. That is the difference.
new report says it's all so tiring. This is the same story we have ever since Gamergate 1. It's like twice a year at this point. This same tired story every single time. Noir says, what are you talking about? Ghost of Yotei, The Last of Us 2, Returnal, RNC Rift Apart, Horizon, Alan Wake 2, Intergalactic, The Witcher 4, Fable, 1348 X-Photo, Hellblade 2, South of Midnight, etc. Don't forget Dustborn, and keep going down the list of the other shitty ones. Most of the Western AAA industry has focused on them, actually, with mixed to bad results. Yeah, that's one way to put it. I said, just because you put words on a screen doesn't make them true. Savvy? A DEI firm paid by DEI dollars and talking to other DEI losers. No, women are not overlooked opportunities for growth in the games industry. No, we do not need more girl bosses. No, lying to companies is not going to help. Clearly, you want more studios to close. Thank you. I'd like to think Savvy's not a bad guy.
Yeah, we need to seriously, shut down these like DEI offices in these, not just with like video game industries, but in every type of company in America, because they do more harm than good in the long run. If I'm willing to be fair and say they started out as like an advocacy for marginalized groups, but that's not how it ended up. Like almost always, humanity ends up taking it too far, or let certain bad faith individuals into the mechanism, and they take things too far. Sure, you want, for example, sure, on paper, it is a good idea to try to put up create more games with, predominant female leads. On paper, the execution is what is getting on everybody's nerves. Where it's just like either too much, the character tends to be one note, preachy, insufferable, they don't look appealing because you're too busy trying to make sure that you think, we're trying to help women, those who don't fit this male gaze. Meanwhile, good example with Resident Evil Requiem, you got a bunch of gay or females enjoying gooning over Leon Kennedy, which is fine. But then in the same breath, try to make people feel bad or trash those who like looking at the hot women of Resident Evil. Because it's something that guys and most girls like to see. Pretty women. So what do these DEI programs do? They force companies to make games like Assassin's Creed Shadows or Concord, where they, at least in the Western gaming market, they, uglify most of the females. Or you look at something like Overwatch, they kind of manipulate characters to being, lesbians. Or they, like in Harley Quinn's case, she's technically bisexual. However, all you see is her with women. They are trying to eradicate anything that might please men, because once again they overcorrect. They want free reign to just do whatever they want because they're activists or they got some kind of chip on their shoulder. Their daddy didn't love them. He didn't buy them like that pony when they turned sweet 16 or something. So they just freshly out of these indoctrinated colleges didn't really earn their way up to the chain of command to make certain rules and regulations or know what true writing is. So it's like, they treating everything like it's the college campus where they only think one way and that's all everybody should think. But no. That's why we as a society respect merit-based programs where you work your way up. You do the internship, you shadow people, you watch the veterans closely, see them how they do it. Doesn't mean you have to repeat everything, but you need to understand. That's why I was so irritated when a lot of the old Pixar writers who worked on things like Toy Story 1 and 2 and stuff of that, in like the 90s and early 2000s, kind of quietly leave because they would not like follow this whole DI program BS, because that's not how you make great long lasting characters. That's how, like, people who used to work in Ubisoft splintered off to make their own studio, Sandfall, to make characters and stories that are layered and complex and not trying to do check boxes. That is the problem. DI programs are just forcing you to do check boxes instead of letting things happen organically. Yes, we would like, cool female leads. Initially, I always liked the idea of Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn. But, thanks to DEI, instead of being a brand new Lara Croft of the modern era, she is a girl boss. She just knows everything. She is just perfect. She is uglified. She can't be attractive. And on top of that, worm your way into the system, into making this girl into women. It's just like, it's ruining good storytelling. And that should be the foremost important thing when creating story. Not saying that it can't be themes to the story that you're trying to tell, but that has to be secondary or third on the list. Too many are making it a first priority, to the point you barely have room to fit in any story.
Or girl,
sorry,
I should say.
kind of.
She's not a bad person. She's not. I'm not a bad guy. At the end of the day, people talking about the games industry are concerned for the future of it. Asmongold is not a bad guy. Sometimes it's a tough love approach to saying, if you do this, it's going to be worse down the road. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. So I'm done with the acceptance phase of just letting you run all over us, destroying the entire industry. And
That's why I think we needed some level of gatekeeping. It's mostly on us nerds, or people who really truly grew up with a lot of these things. Like, video game industry is primarily geared towards men, because primarily we're the demographic that plays video games way more than the female counterpart. Sure, females are there, it's all cool, but they naturally kind of came along because they probably seen their brothers playing Street Fighter one day and they kind of gotten into it, or Final Fantasy VII, they kind of got into it because they thought Sephiroth was hot. But it was a natural, organic kind of Darwinism. It just happened. But when you're trying to force it, that's where it's like, okay, you can't force it. Because most girls ain't going to be into games. And you're going to end up crippling your company because you're trying to push women into playing things that most of them aren't interested in. You got to know your audience. These DEI programs don't know their audience. But most of them really don't care. They're trying to push an agenda, and I think more and more people are picking up on that. And I gotta say, the black community, some of them, they are, eating this DI stuff up because they want to believe that it's a good thing. They want to believe it's like doing it for the right reasons. And people who complain about it are just like bigots. It's like, no. It's like they'll point out examples of, race swapping in the past, or female leads in the past. And I tend to like to chime in and say, no. Remember how it was prior to the creation of DEI. Yes, there was always female leads. Yes, there were always race swaps. But it wasn't a mandate. That is the difference. If you're forcing it, then it comes across as hollow and cheap. It's like, oh, you're just trying to do it so that way, you can look this up, it's a real thing, you can get like nominated for academies or Oscars or whatever, because you have certain amount of women and certain amount of people of color, blah blah blah. Sure, people warmed up to the idea that Jamie Foxx as Electro was kind of decent because he was good at that role. He had the initial pushback will almost always be there, but it's up to the director, the writers, and the actor working in tandem to make sure that this character, stands out, shows his stuff. Same thing with Michael Clarke Duncan as the Kingpin. We all know Jamie Foxx and Michael Clarke Duncan are great actors. They're already proven that. So the actor, no matter what level of fame that they at, has to bring it so that way the audience can buy into the swap. Unlike Halle Bailey, whichever one was playing Black Little Mermaid, you cannot tell me that wasn't just mandated. The whole kiss the girl scene that's very famous and iconic was implied consent was already there because that's part of the story, that she wants to get kissed by this handsome prince so she can get her voice back. She wants the kiss. She clearly liked the guy. She is like eager to kiss this dude. But they had to, the live action version, notice how they had to work into the song about consent. She has to agree to it. All this stuff. It's kind of taking a bit of the romance for a lot of girls out of this kind of film. It's about knowing your audience and knowing the fact that females really like these Disney romances. They like the man and a woman coming together and being swept off her feet and, obviously like getting kissed by the hunky, prince. The consent is already implied by the fact that it's a romance story. These DEI programs are ruining. I can't really get the word out. Sounding like Stewie Griffin. They keep ruining romance out of these narratives that's supposed to be organic.
And then disappearing to go destroy something else afterwards. It's time to take the industry back. Savvy continues, no, we do not need initiatives to attract women. I don't see you doing this for oil rigs or bull riding. Great point. Or even truck driving or trash woman.
Right. Good examples. You need to stop trying to sell male-dominated spaces to women who, on a great scale, are not interested. If a woman wants to go bull riding, if a woman wants to join an oil rig, if she wants to be an electrician, if she wants to be a mechanic, that path is always there. There's nobody barring a woman to getting into these fields. Matter of fact, a lot of these places are begging women to come. Hey, nobody's stopping you. There's no, contrary to popular belief, men on a good long for many years have not barred women from joining in on certain things. Sure, you can say back in the 30s and 40s, women could even own their own credit cards. Yeah, but you also didn't have debt, but you also still were able to work. Women are always able to work. You know, we just knew that certain, or at least especially women knew that there are certain things they're just not interested in and they don't want to take part in. There are very rare circumstances where women join a coal mine. And it's like, oh, shame on the guy for not wanting women to work in dangerous, dirty jobs because it's not a very ladylike space. Guys typically go into these states because we're built to handle it. Whether we want it or not is a whole different topic, but we're biologically built for these kind of things. Women are not. They can do certain jobs that is less laborious, less life-threatening. That's why there was a whole wage gap thing in the first place, because they go into fields that isn't dangerous or life-threatening. If they did, they'll have just about as much, money as most dudes who worked in those same fields. But they're choosing things that's like, clerical work, nursing, and really, throughout history, they generally go into the same fields almost always. The women who become mechanics or joining oil rigs or being electricians are outliers, because those things are typically laborious or dangerous, dirty. Women really like to do things that are gross. Just on the basis of gross alone, you'd be hard pressed to find women who's like super excited to work in like a sewage maintenance thing.
Demographic differences occur, and that is okay. A lack of women is not a problem. Thank you. I feel like this is like the most obvious elephant in the room that people like forget to say it because you think it's so obvious. But a lack of women is not a problem. When I'm getting my house fixed and my light switch isn't working, I don't call an electrician and have him show up and say, "Oh, you're a guy? Are there any girl electricians?" I don't give a fuck. Fix my light, bro. Same with plumbers. Same with literally anything. I don't care. When you're in a business, the object is to get your job done. And whoever is doing it, if they can do it the best, that's all that matters. It's not there's a lack of women here, there's a problem. No, it's not. That's never actually been an issue. Miss me with this made up excuse to create jobs in the industry for positions that have zero need to exist and are a total net negative for the overall industry. You think it is the most corpo shill bullshit in the world, though. I thought you fucks were all anti-capitalist leftists. Curious. What a banger comment. Lol. The number of people in the comments who don't know any women is astounding. Women in games ambassador. Oh, now it all makes sense. Community developer looking for the next opportunity. Formerly
Ubisoft. Yeah, I bet she got freaking fired because of her little extremisms. Honestly, people who work in certain industries should look at people's little profiles on Twitter or something like that. If they're like, their personal bios. I mean, not personal bios. Their they them's on their stuff, or a bunch of trans and pride flags all over the place, then honestly I would be very hesitant on hiring them. Interviews can be one thing, but actually hiring them, I would be very cautious. If they say like, "Oh, gays for Palestine," probably wouldn't be a good idea to hire them if they are not able to check all that crap at the door when they're in the workplace. Because especially if they're, people like this shouldn't be in the writer's room for any game or movie or TV show. because they're too busy trying to influence the systems. They're trying to force their purview onto others. Instead of, these are the kind of people that won't hear the other side or hear any other point of view except their own. The they thems are typically those kind of, people that cannot, be in a room with many different walks of life, with many different points of views that are different from them, hearing them out and actually agreeing with certain parts. It's okay to disagree, but you gotta hear them out and understand with some nuance and context. This kind of person would flip out for misgendering her and cause a big old scene and wanting that person to be fired or something. Or put up such a fuss on social media that will force a company to like pay them off so they won't get in big trouble, or put the other person on leave for a while because it's just less of a hassle. This person should not be in certain companies if they cannot, or she cannot abide by certain rules and like chill the heck out. People like this are crazy most of the time. A person like this, yeah, they won't hesitate to like call HR on you for complimenting her. If you compliment her freaking hair, she'll call HR saying she's being harassed, and they'll actually have to listen to her because they don't want to look like they're ignoring the problem, or like not hearing the victim, because these people like to be victims.
Ubisoft, she, her, they, them. Remember I just said a few moments ago these positions that do not need to exist? This creature right here, get out of the industry. You are not wanted. You have never been wanted. Leave. Your input is not desired here.
And
Thank
so
you.
far as like gatekeeping, it was actually serve a purpose, because it barred a lot of people who never had any interest in this, who wants to get into the same interest as like the majority, who's been in like take Star Wars for example. Sure, true blue Star Wars fans since the 70s, 80s, and the 90s had no problem. People who were initially interested wanted to be involved. Sure, but we had to gatekeep certain individuals because, like, sure, we can allow you into our home, but don't go around pulling stuff off the shelf because it kind of makes you feel icky. Like, I don't like this like picture of a slave Leia. Let's take this down and put in Rey Palpatine and make her like push aside the Luke Skywalker to put her picture there instead. Changing up stuff, putting their feet up on the table, and then making you the a-hole for pointing out that, hey, don't put your feet on the table. Oh, you're bigger than because I'm a woman, I can't put my feet on the table. It's people who aren't respectful of the thing that they were invited into. It's the lack of respect. Sure, you can be nobody's stopping you from enjoying Star Wars. What we have a problem with is you disrespecting it on a fundamental level to kind of suit your sensibilities instead of you trying to fit into the puzzle piece. You're trying to rewrite the entire puzzle to fit your narrative of how you want to choose to live in your own purview, like what was created before had issues. Same thing with the video game industry. You can apply it there. You played Super Mario 2 one time, and now you think you know how the game industry works. Now it's like, oh, it's a problem. So let's just swap out Jin Sakai and just put in like a female here who's gonna probably preach to you and start talking about like, or have characters talking about like modern day issues like a female's rights or something like that in a background setting where that wouldn't have been a thing. Throwing in progressivisms into certain things that do not or should not apply. It's supposed to be fantasy. You're supposed to have escapism. We don't need constant real world stuff intermingling in our fantasy.
Grums, the analysts are pushing this again like it's 2019. This ruined many studios. Disparu, no, you don't understand. The people who don't like your industry are how you grow your industry. Every time they get through trying to unlearn it, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson? Let's dive into it begrudgingly. Female players are an overlooked opportunity for growth in the industry, research firm says. As the industry is literally nosediving, plane on fire, crashing and burning, they're saying, yes, women will fix the wings on this plane and make it fly again. There is certainly potential to expand the overall number of female gamers. It suggests, you know what I always think about when people say you can increase or expand the overall number of female gamers? I think about my wife. I think about my daughter. I think about the women and girls in my life that I know. And I think, do they play video game? I mean, I guess the prototypical definition of the most casual of casual. Bejeweled for my wife, or threes, just flipping cards around casually while watching Netflix or right before bedtime. Once every couple of nights, maybe. That's the extent of it. My daughter, Roblox, sometimes with her friends, maybe. And that's the extent of it. These people are looking at people like them and saying, we can get them to play games more. And I can assure you, you cannot. It is not in their DNA.
It's a matter of want and interest. You cannot force it. That's the key thing. Women will naturally get into video games. Like, you look at something like Expedition 33. I'm pretty sure there's quite a few new female gamers just organically coming in because the game was just a good game. Not trying to pander to a female demographic that wasn't going to be involved. If you're trying to force it, it does not work. It'll turn people off. We got naturally feminine characters, layered characters, great story, great gameplay. Word of mouth got around. Eventually, females who either had brothers or friends, male friends who happened to have the game, talked about it, showed them, and they got involved that way. But you cannot make, women who generally don't have any interest in playing video games as staunchly as most men do. They're just not going to do it. Just like Barbie is not, or Mattel isn't going to try to force guys who generally aren't into Barbie into liking Barbie. It's just not going to happen. Our interests are not symmetrical, they're asymmetrical. Are there outliers? Sure, there's nothing wrong with that. There are guys out there that are into My Little Pony, a girl's brand. But I'm pretty sure the same is still Mattel. They're not going to force men who are generally, looking at the general population, are not into that stuff. They'll never be into that stuff. If those outliers happen to be into it, fine. They will appreciate how Barbie and My Little Pony was, and how it was geared towards, and how it was built in the first place, because That's what they're used to. That's what they know. That's what they like. I like Sailor Moon, a girl's brand. I love Sailor Moon. I don't want Sailor Moon to change to suit a boy's needs. Then it stopped being Sailor Moon. It's just another Power Rangers ripoff. And I'll be upset as a Sailor Moon fan. Like, why did you change this up? Why you make them girl boss? Or why you changing up how Sailor Moon and the Sailor Scouts operate? That's weird. So that's where you get. There's no internalized misandry in me for saying something like that. Just like there wouldn't be no internalized misogyny in a female who points out that, yeah, y'all screwing up Star Wars. Y'all screwing up Ghost of Tsushima. Because we liked it the way it was. Stop changing crap. You can add to it, but stop trying to change it.
You want more than this. It isn't. The extent of my wife playing more video games was way back when we were dating and we were playing the Wii Sports and the Wii Party games, and just the more casual, just instead of watching a movie, we were playing an interactive game with each other. And that itself was very rare. That didn't happen all the time either. So to rely on women as a demographic will always lead you to a dead end. I have a crazy idea. Instead of focusing on people who are not your core audience, how about, I know this is wild, how about focus on your core audience? Because you're starting to lose them. And because you're losing them, your studios are falling apart. And people are losing jobs. How about we go back to the basics with this stuff? The games industry is overlooking potential growth by not fully accommodating female players. How do you accommodate female players? The firm which combines consumer research, these are always skewed to fuck all, by the way. These never believe any of these surveys. With 46,000 global respondents annually, gaming market data and forecasts, and title level sales and tracking data says there are steps that can be taken to get more women interested in games. Here we go with the same female players represent 48%. Say the line, Bart. This is, when I covered this, like, it feels like a year ago. This is a fake stat taken completely out of context to push an agenda. Female players do not represent 48% of the gaming population. They are stating it as a fact to set the table for what they're talking about. This is not true, though. What are we doing? This is not even true. You're setting the table with shit. And then you want to put plates on top of that. Around 922 million players across 21 markets, Ampere says, but at such a low...
This is what happens when people say, oh, do your research, and they manipulating the system to suit a agenda. Because, like, anybody who just casually, Google this and they see this, that's where their research will stop. They're not going to be bothered to do any deep dives and see if there's any context, out of context kind of situation. Why would they? If this is the first thing they see, that'll be the extent of their research, because people behind the scenes are manipulating certain things. Now you got to kind of double down or triple down the research just to make sure this is all concrete, because certain articles have certain people that gotta put out a particular agenda or gotta say the right thing in order to not look a certain way, potentially not getting boycotted or whatever. This is extremely high. This is skewed to the point where it's like, really, 48%, nearly half. No, looking at this seems very cap. At best, it should be half of this. At best, and I'm being generous with that, because they're trying to account for people who are playing their little mobile games. That doesn't count. Remember I used the analogy about the whole cooking pork and beans, comparing them to actual chefs. They're counting the pork and beans cooks. That's what this is. Oh, yeah, 48%. That makes sense, because we're counting the ones that's fixing pork and beans. and including them with those who making like Michelin star level meals.
Large scale, this 4% difference does represent 93 million fewer female gamers than male. Senior analyst Katie Holt said during a presentation held today, does she get paid for her presentations? Does it benefit her business to give these presentations? You need to ask these questions because there's always an agenda with this stuff. This represents a gap in the market that could be considered a missed opportunity with potential to increase monetization and engagement. This also represents a gap in the market that could be considered something that if you push forward.
If you watch those Jubilee videos, I like the sites that they use. That is, if you ever watch those Jubilee videos, they have like sources that are impartial, that isn't skewing, the Democratic, demographic or the Republican demographic. Is like, this is the facts, cold hard truth. Feelings are not involved, and nobody's manipulating the system. This is it. The name of the source escaped me, but if you watch any Jubilee videos, look up, or at least pay attention to like somebody trying to say a fact, and they put up the or even close to a fact or infactual, they will put up the source and the actual facts right on the screen, so you can look at it and see like, oh, here's the actual concrete thing. This is the deep dive research that using a source that is impartial. Nobody's manipulating it. This is the cold hard truth. It doesn't care about your feelings. Here it is. That's what I think a lot of these outlets need to start using, or hiring people who's supposed to be journalists to be impartial, keeping their feelings out of it. Tell the cold hard truth. Doesn't matter how it makes anybody feels. They're not looking to, game the system to suit their agenda, just to boost up their career. There's less and less Lois Lanes and April O'Neils out there in the world nowadays.
Will destroy the entire game industry if you continue down this path that has not worked out for the past 5+ years. Maybe
journalists
10+
and
years.
reporters with integrity.
The company's research found that women tend to prefer narrative-driven, single-player experiences over competitive multiplayer games. What? What women do? Like, I'm sure they exist, but by and large, all the women in my life playing games only cared about games when they were multiplayer interactive party games. That was the extent of it. Just Dance, Jackbox party games,
Wii Sports,
the Wii Sports, Wii Party. That's the extent of what women, at least in my life, I can only speak from my personal perspective.
Everybody was obsessed with Wii Sports. I love Wii Sports. That was a fun party game. Just like with like Mario Party, those are like top tier fun party games that everybody can enjoy. But there's a lot of aunties and moms really like the Wii Fit game. My stepmother really was into that.
Again, there are girls out there that love single player experiences. I know they are. Very Dark plays basically all of them. I get it. I'm sure they exist. I would argue they are the exception to the rule more than saying they're the rule, which is where you start getting in trouble with this kind of stuff. 18% of female players surveyed saying they played The Sims 4 in the last 3 months. That's a narrative-driven single-player experience. And 1 out of 5 girls that you surveyed played it. X to doubt. Who are these girls that you found? It also found that female players are more prevalent on casual devices, like smartphones and tablets, but outnumbered on console and PC. Yes. What's this? But outnumbered on console. Oh, they're outnumbered. Yes. This is a fun way of trying to put these words in that they do not play these. They're making it seem like they're all female players, and then they say all the devices. No. I want to be clear what they're saying here to not mess with the words they're trying to twist. Female players play on smartphones. That's what this line. Drop the rest of this stuff. They play on phones. That's what they're saying. When given a list of 52 console and PC games and asked which ones they played, only 3 titles, Animal Crossing New Horizons, The Sims 4, and Roblox, had more female players than male. Conversely, when given a list of 50 mobile games, 13 had more female players. I
know there's a lot of girls who are into the Overcooked game, which is super ironic. That a cooking game is very popular amongst women. Guys get into it too, but I kind of noticed that, which I find it kind of hilarious.
do not believe any of this. I'm not going to try to just trust what Video Games Chronicle is running with the story and this Ampere analysis is pushing, because I've done the research last time around they did this, and it was complete bullshit. So I already know. I'm not going to waste my time diving into it again. This is the same shit they gave us 7 months ago. It's bullshit. Everyone knows it's bullshit, and they still move forward with this. It's so exhausting. It's so exhausting. Here we go. 18% female gamers report playing The Sims 4 last 3 months. Candy Crush, Minecraft, Fortnite, Monopoly Go. What are we doing? So what you're telling me is, if I understand correctly, your suggestion is to make more casual games like Candy Crush, and you don't think that's going to collapse the industry? You think more girls?
Mobile games are the pork and beans of video games. They're not. They barely can be counted. They're not even hamburgers and fries. These are pork and beans type of meals. They can barely be counted as a meal. But they want to count these as big as like steak and potatoes.
Are going to play more games because Candy Crush Saga 2 came out? No, it's going to be the same girls. It's not going to be new girls coming in. Holt explained that by studying what themes and content appeal to them, developers can not only introduce them to the medium, but also better integrate them into existing titles. I can't with this. Holy. In terms of improving culture and community for women, Holt explained toxicity prevents some women from engaging with online. Wow. I think
they're talking about like the if you're playing like Call of Duty or Overwatch online multiplayer stuff, and you get certain people who might be very crass and talking a lot of mess, and or maybe on rare occasions say something kind of racial. That's what I'm talking about. You're going into somebody's house and you don't like how they're set up. Online multiplayer are set up that way, unfortunately. That's where instead of you trying to force everybody to, acknowledge your feelings and, force them to adhere to behavioral standards, so you'll call like, HR or whatever, like, oh, they hurt my feelings. They said like I'm fat. Like, oh my God. Instead of building tough skin like many dudes do, because we all get called names too. Either turn off the communication system. That's always been a feature. Turning it off so you don't have to hear any of them. If you don't want to deal with that nonsense, you don't have to. It's perfectly fine. From time to time, I do that too. Like, I just want to enjoy the multiplayer game. I'm not trying to hear all the chatter, just in general, not just with like negative stuff, but just in general. I just kind of want to focus on to the game. So I need to tune everybody out so I can maintain focus. But I also understand that's the nature of the beast. I remember playing Street Fighter 4 online one time, and I'm hearing like so much crap from this other kid. Clearly was like a kid at that time, talking so much smack, like, oh, your mama this and all this other stuff. So I was playing as Akuma at the time, and I don't know what the kid was playing as, but I stomped that little dude and he got real quiet then. That's how you do. You get good at game and you stomp the people, and then look how quickly that they shut up. But it'll always be a thing. There's always going to be people might talk mad stuff. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's very, decent players out there. Like, I play, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel online against people plenty of times. And honestly, I don't think I ever come across anybody who said anything negative. At bare minimum, they say good game. Or if it was like an actual good back and forth, but I still lost, they send like a decent message. It's like, hey man, yeah, that was a good game, man. You was holding your own for a while, and I respond back in kind. It's like, man, yeah, man, you did your thing, man. You like very good. Hey, good on you, man. You know, it's cordial. More often than not, it's very cordial, but it's on occasion, every now and again, you will come across people who are kind of a dick. Not unlike people in real life. You got to have tough skin. You got to move through life with people who gonna be dicks to you from time to time. I know it doesn't feel good, but life isn't, like as Lego Batman once said, life doesn't give you seatbelts. You know, and that's the problem with a lot of these little snowflakes out there, because they cannot handle certain things that are uncomfortable, no matter how small. That's what they're trying to force change to fit their little sensibilities, because they grew up being coddled by their parents who are treating them like their best friends instead of their child, and preparing them for the life that is going to be from time to time uncomfortable. And you get these people into these little industries like gaming industry or comic industry or literary industry or movie industry, and they corrupt the system because they can't handle uncomfortable conversations. They can't handle things that might seem a little off-colored comments, but completely like, you know, at the grand scheme of things, a nothing burger. You get people who look at the scary movie trailer and get all butthurt because they had a joke line about a woman saying like, my pronouns are they, them. And like, oh my God, it's not 2004 anymore. It's those people that are in these little spaces that shouldn't be in these spaces because they cannot handle it. They cannot handle pushback or off-color jokes from time to time. I don't care. I grew up at a time where there's plenty of white people, typically white comedians, who make off-color black jokes from time to time. I understand the context. I'm not gonna get butthurt about it. It happens. And if it's funny, it's funny. You gotta learn to laugh at yourself. Got to have tough skin. I miss the days where we used to tell people to walk it off. I think that is something that is need to be brought back. Teach people to learn how to walk it off. Suck it up.
I think we just found the reason why big AAA companies are making such a push against the gaming community. It's always about the money. I would guarantee you there were backroom deals, backroom board meetings, conversations happening. We need to focus on limiting toxicity from our player base so that we can focus on introducing women to our in-game economy. Because right now, the men are scaring.
There are women who are way more, quote-unquote, toxic. I know girls that talk mad crap at another woman and another man. Doesn't matter if that person is, crushing you at a particular video game. She will talk so much crap. It's like she'll talk about like your mom or like all that stuff. But a woman like that knows the space she's in, and she adapted. And it's those type of women male gamers respect, because she can dish it out as well as taking it.
Them away. Colloquial and definitely, in my own experience, women express that they avoid using voice chat in online lobbies due to toxicity concerns, Holt said. And this contributes to the misconception that we aren't playing these games at all. Welcome to the landscape of the game. If you would like to play a different game, there are hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of games in existence. You're welcome to play whatever your fancy is. If there's a lobby that...
Play some Animal Crossing. Play like a Super Mario game. has plenty. A lot of it isn't an online thing, so you don't have to do any kind of multiplayer and hear all that stuff. You can do it, and it's perfectly fine. So you don't have to deal with that if you don't like it in general. That's perfectly fine. Nobody's forcing you to participate, but don't try to force everybody to view things the way you view it. It does not work. That's where you get the pushback. That's where people get annoyed. That's why people call it woke. That's why people are annoyed with DEI programs, because they listen to a few minute amount of people who cannot handle it, who cannot just let it roll off their back and understand the field that they're in. They're trying to change everything for those minute amount of people. Because everybody's obsessed with everybody's little funky little feelings.
Is not something that is kind to your ears or detrimental to your satisfaction of the experience, why the fuck would you go to it? That's like saying, hey, let me go to Watts in LA at nighttime and walk the streets and see what happens to me. And yeah, hey, I'd rather not have this toxicity. I'm not gonna fucking walk the streets there, bro. I'm just not gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna pick and choose what streets I walk down. What are we doing? What even is this? It is such a tiring argument trying to push a narrative that does not exist. And I can promise you, they will continue to hammer this angle for the next 150,000 plus years, because this is big business trying to sell companies on the idea that we can make you more money if we can get half of the population that isn't playing the games to playing the games. And these executives and shareholders fall for it, hook, line, and sinker every time, because they see the money and they see the potential and they're like, yes. And by doing that, you leave your existing player base by the wayside and all the shit falls apart. And at the end of the day, people lose jobs. And I'd like to think, as much as we celebrate fries in the bag these days, I'd like to think a healthy industry logically promotes the best developers making the best games for the customers that want to participate in the ecosystem, and not trying to find other people and lure them into an ecosystem that they otherwise wouldn't care about. How about we focus on keeping gaming in gaming? I know it's crazy to say, but I feel like it's the same story we talk about.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I would like to hope that these executives are smarter than that, where they can, hear these little industry plants, they're pitching this little ideas like, oh my god, like we can get these get you more dollars by trying to trick people who aren't gamers to being gamers, so we can have more. And it's like, if they're not into the games, why are we wasting our time? We already got like a high player base that we're already into games. We're gonna just like focus on them. If there's more, roped in on a casual level, all the better. But it'll be like a waste of time and money trying to force people who aren't interested into being interested. It's not gonna work. And I hope that, there's like, executives that are smarter than that, to say, who has the wisdom to point out, and not super obsessed with the dollars. I understand everybody wants to make money. That's perfectly fine. But there's got to be some wisdom behind the capitalism to understand, like, okay, I want to make a successful lemonade company, but I'm not going to try to reach out and waste dollars on advertisements and, and time into trying to force people who aren't into lemonade, especially sugary substances, and try to bring them on board, because yes, they are potential dollars, but it'll be a waste of time and energy and money to try to force people who don't drink sugary substances or even lemonade in general, and trying to force them to buy the product. If they're not into it, they're not going to be into it. So I should just primarily focus on people who like lemonade, who already been lovers of lemonade for years, and focus on them. That's where my dollars is. You know, I can live with that. If I gave more just on a casual level, great. Because that is an organic way of generating more new revenue. But anyway, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Leave a comment below if you're watching this on YouTube. And I'll see you all for the next one. Peace.